Welcome back into another Blue Collar Blitz, bro. I was going to try and record an episode as I was plowing in Snowmageddon, as they're calling it here in Eastern Mass yesterday, but the loader was a little too loud, and I probably should have stayed focused because I could not see anything in the loader. So I figured I'd do it on my way back home from the gym. Two guys that I'm pretty intrigued by, and I talked about it in a prior episode. This is going to be a bro breakdown, but it's going to be a bro breakdown verse. If you can, it's a lot. Bro breakdown verse. It's going to be Drew Allar versus Sawyer Robertson, what I think. And then I'm introducing a new little feature called the bro meter. Now, we know we have the bro score, but now we're going to break into the bro meter. All right, so broke down some of the film. Like I said, I tried to watch the games where they played the best competition because I really don't, I would hope that these guys would look good on the teams that they're on versus, UMass, and I say that with respect. I love UMass, grew up right around there, but let's be honest, UMass. I don't really care about that as much, so I watched games against some of their better competition. I went for Sawyer Robertson. I really just watched this last year. For Drew Allar, I watched one of each. I watched one game from last year and one game from this past year. Drew Allar is probably one of the more interesting. I'll just start with him. I like Drew Allar. I like his arm. He has a lot of different good arm angles. As I was watching him, some notes I saw was he has a ton of raw talent. Like when you look at him, he's just got all the raw traits you could want. Drew Allar, he's 6'5", 245, I believe is what it had on Tankathon. And I believe he's weighing in at the combine. So you get a more accurate representation, but he looks like that. I'll bet that's probably it. So what you're going to get out of Allar is he's got a lot of great arm angles. He's got a really live arm. He's got a lot of spin on it, which I like. You want to see a lot of velocity on that ball. He can really sling it. He will. This past year was a little harder to kind of gauge just because of the receivers. I mean, everyone talks about the Penn State receivers. They're not entirely, the best. But if you break down some of the film, at least, with what he had and what he did with what he had, I liked some of it. I went in pretty enthusiastic. I liked probably about the first 5 minutes. And then as you kind of watch, it was a little frustrating because he looked really good. And then he would just have some wide open sprays. So, like I said, he's got a live arm that's super strong. He can throw the ball a ton of different ways, and I know that I've said that a couple times, but that is important. I mean, it's less important when you're as tall as he is, because the whole idea is when you're 6'5", you can see over those linemen, or at least you have a better line of vantage point. If you're a quarterback who, like a guy like Garrett Nussmeier, who's 6'1", barely. I'm sure he's probably more like 6 foot. We'll see at the combine, but it's harder to see over those linemen. So Drew Allar does have that, and so does Robertson. But he's got that height, so the arm angles don't matter as much. He gets rid of the ball well. Like if he's getting hit or if he's kind of getting wrapped up, he can toss the ball away, even if it's a throwaway. So I mean that's good, avoiding sacks. I like elements of his game. I like how raw he is because you can just say, okay, well, if you draft him, you can, say, well, maybe he'll sit for a year or two and develop, and then at least you have a little hope. For Drew Allar, he strikes me as a Pittsburgh Steeler through and through. I don't think he's super hard-nosed, so I don't think that's the kind of player he is, but I can just totally see Aaron Rodgers coming back. Him getting drafted relatively middle of the draft, sitting, developing, and seeing what you're looking at. But I like him. I really wanted to like him, and when I turned on the film and watched him, there were things that I liked, but the things that would just drive you crazy is his feet got really weird at times, which sometimes, helped him get away from a couple things, or like if he was getting tackled and his feet were off, he could throw the ball away. So, I mean, that's good, but he's so slow. I mean, I'm sure if him and I raced, I might like my chances. I mean, he does not have that quickness in any way. He moves, not at a speed that you'd probably like. But, like, that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot if you know what you're doing. I mean, I watched Tom Brady for years be slow as molasses and figure out how to maneuver through the pocket. I don't know how well he does that yet, but, I mean, the kid, he's still a kid. He's still very young. So, but the biggest down for Drew Allar was he just sprays some balls, and you're just like, dude, like, how did you miss that? He'll make a tremendous toss, and then he'll just spray like a wide open one. You're like, what the heck? So that's Drew Allar. Then Sawyer Robertson. So Sawyer Robertson, he's 6'4", 220. I absolutely loved watching Sawyer Robertson. I thought, like, he just, everything about watching him and, like, just everything about the dude. I watched some interviews between the two, too, and we'll get into the bro meter in a minute. But I like him. I can just totally see him being a guy that no one knows about or no one talks about, gets drafted, has a decent preseason, gets a shot, and makes a big, a big push. I loved him. He had a strong arm, an accurate arm. He had okay feet. It wasn't like, like, I'm not a quarterback whisperer. I'm not like watching his feet and like, 0.5 minus points off because, he did a little foot thing. I mean, I'm not a scout, right? But just by just the meathead bro over here watching, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't look like he's really getting too sped up. He had some really nice deep passes. I mean, when you watch him, he's got a freaking beautiful ball. Reminds me, I dare I say, not everything, but some of the throws, Drake May-ish. Decent mobility. He's relatively fast, not like Lamar Jackson's going to run for, I believe he's like 750 yards. He's not like that. He's not even like Drake May fast, but he can move. He can scoot a little bit. He's got a little bit of that scoot. And so some of the downs where he had some funky throws here and there where you're like, not as bad as Drew Allar's, but some where you're like, all right. Sometimes got a little too much on it. So, I'm trying to think of a great example. Joe Milton used to remind me of this. Or reminds me of this, where, you got a guy on, maybe it's just a shallow crosser, and he just throws a friggin' fastball right there, and, it bounces off the receiver's hands, because it's a hard catch. If you're 5 yards away or 10 yards away, and you just fire in a friggin' missile, it's a little harder to catch. He had a little bit of that, which, again, I mean, those are things that you can work on. Some guys, not necessarily, but, so Sawyer Robertson, I loved watching him. So in the bro breakdown, I would choose Sawyer Robertson. There's something about him. He has that thing that I like. So, we're going to introduce the bro meter. All right. So bro meter is the amount of bro that you are. All right. So like, let's just give some examples here. 007, bro as you get, double bro 7, as I call him. Patent pending. Just kidding. I don't know how to do a patent. Baker Mayfield, all-time bro. Everything about him, bro. Gronk, bro. Julian Edelman, bro. I know those are Patriots, but they're the easiest ones to look at, right? So it's just kind of like how bro you are. You're dry scooping your creatine. You probably got a fat lip in. You probably just don't really give a what, as the kids would say. So that's being bro, but also just not being stupid, like not being an idiot. But, well, I think us bros are kind of stupid, but like in a good way. Like where your professor in college, and I'm convinced this happened for me, looks at you and it's like, I feel bad for this guy. He's at least nice. He's dumb. He's funny, but he's dumb funny. So at least, whatever, right? So we're that dumb, but like not out like doing things like, certain players do on the off field that gets you suspended, just kind of being an idiot. So that's the bro meter. All right. So for example, Baker Mayfield would be like a 9.8 on the bro meter. All right. Tom Brady, maybe a 0.1. I mean, that's what we're looking at here. All right. Sawyer Robertson, sweet mullet, or a bro mullet, as some would say. Bro meter, high. I gave him a 9.5 on the bro meter. The way he walks around, he's got the guns out. He doesn't have the Peyton Manning sleeves. Like I said, the mullet, super bro, 9.5. All right. Drew Allar, not going to lie, I like him. I'm sure I'd like spending time with him, but I only gave him a 6.5, not a high on the bro meter. All right. So, if you really want to break it down, if you're just going based off of bro, I'm going Sawyer Robertson, but I would have went him anyway. So, end of the day, if you're in it for fantasy reasons, I would probably say Allar is a better choice if you're doing dynasty or if you're trying to stock or whatever. If you're you're listening to this for whatever reason for any kind of analysis, I would say Sawyer Robertson. I can't really see I can see him going to the Rams, sitting behind Stafford. I don't think he'd play right away. So I can see him going to a place like the Rams, maybe the Bucks behind, bro leader or bro meter, oh my goodness, bro meter, Mount Rushmore, Baker Mayfield. Somewhere like that. I mean, he might go and be a backup somewhere, but I think he's got a lot of potential where you could really just use him and, maybe let him sit for a year and see what he does. Drew Allar, I bet he sits, but I wouldn't, like I said, he's a Steeler through and through to me. I think he's going to the Steelers. I can see that working out. Or if Aaron Rodgers, gets hurt, hopefully he doesn't, or he gets benched for whatever reason, where he can hop in, I don't want to say like Shedeur Sanders, but maybe a little bit like that, where late in the season he gets some games under his belt, and we'll see. So when you really break it down, Sawyer Robertson versus Drew Allar, I think Aller is going to go higher in the draft. I think he's going to get a few more chances. But I like Sawyer Robertson better. I think he's going to be a better quarterback. And we'll see at the Combine how these guys throw. So, but thank you guys for listening. And again, I apologize, a little stuttering today. Like I said, it was Snowmageddon here in Massachusetts. And we were out for I don't even know how many hours plowing snow. So my mind's a little slow. But thank you for listening. Have a good one, and God bless.